Remember the beginning of this year when everybody was excited and waited for Webtoon adaptations, thinking that they will change and bring a new era of anime? Yeah, me neither. Webtoon anime adaptations were one of those things that many people hoped for, but nobody thought they will actually happen. I remember back in 2013, when I was a young lad that still had some dignity left, I first read The God of Highschool and thought to myself, man, this would be so cool if it was adapted into anime. And here I am, 8 years later, watching the same adaptation I longed for when I was younger and be like, meh. This class is not meant to be a criticism of the adaptations. I'm not trying to insult the people that actually enjoyed them. They are not bad, but they are terribly mediocre. My intention here is to take a look at the main issues that led to them not realizing the full potential of the source materials. And finally, look into how does the future look for this kind of adaptations. So, if you have even the slightest curiosity as to why your favorite webtoon was mercilessly butchered, you should join me. I'm joking, okay, calm down, they're not that bad, I'm joking, sort of. I think that the best way to begin is to take a closer look at each adaptation in part and talk about what went wrong. Then, talk about some broader issues that apply to all of them. So, let's start with I imagine that a lot of people share my opinion when I say that out of the three, Tower of God was the most successful adaptation. Leaving the pacing issues aside, it was the only one that told a cohesive story from the beginning to end without the necessity of additional knowledge from other sources to make sense like Noblesse and God of Highschool. It got me reading the webtoon after only 3 episodes, and by the time the season ended I was already caught up with it. My main issue with TOG was the fact that the first season of the webtoon is meant to be more like this massive exposition dump about the tower and its lore. Like the regulars that just started their climb, so did the viewers. It was a learning process for both about how the world works, meant to lay the groundwork for future events. The other role of the first season was to establish the relationships between these characters and to show how they interact together and to learn to respect and rely on each other. And this is where the anime did some oopsies. It indeed kept some of the more important details in, but I feel like it glossed over a lot of other important things that the webtoon took its time to explain. Much of the lore and the world building was cut, and a big portion of the character interactions was changed or non-existent, making it really hard for me to take their friendship seriously. I think that the anime tried too hard to be its own story and not the introduction of a bigger story. It felt like the team that worked on the project only read the first season and decided to adapt it, never even checking what lies beyond it. Don't worry, I won't spoil anything, but it left out some plot points that are brought back and expanded upon in season 2. Leaving all these things aside, it was an enjoyable adaptation, I really liked it. Oh boy, I don't even know where to begin here. This is the perfect example of this is how it looks when you adapt 2 cores in one. I used to love this series when I was younger. It was the first manhwa I ever read, but oh boy, as time passed it got worse and worse. Now, before you tell me to go fuck myself in the comment section, remember that this is my opinion and it shouldn't matter to you what a random idiot on YouTube says. Between the 3 series, I consider the God of Highschool to be the weakest. I am aware that the whole point of the series are the awesome fights and the dynamic action, but if I don't give jack shit about the characters, the fighting itself becomes pretty redundant. I do think that even in the webtoon, the first season of the God of Highschool was also the best. So, you can imagine how much it hurt me when they butchered in the anime the only arc I liked in the webtoon. Let's just be real, the pacing was all over the place, especially in the second half. The story felt much less like look, here is a genuine and natural progression of events that led this character in these situations, and more like, how much story can we skip until the next fight? And sure, the fighting scenes and the animation were great, but everything else was pretty bad. Without the extra pieces of information I had from reading the manhwa, I don't think I could have kept up with the show. If I could forgive the pacing in Tower of God, the God of Highschool has no excuses. It desperately needed 2 cores and it could have been a decent series. And here we are at the last adaptation that is currently airing. I really wanted to make this class earlier, but I held off to give the anime the chance to pick up its pace. But after 8 episodes, as the time of writing the script, I think that's enough. That's enough! I picked up the webtoon right after the anime started because of the hype that the people made regarding this series. And I must say, yeah, it's pretty good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I have my issues with it, but that's beyond the point. Let's talk about the anime. I don't know why, but I had the highest expectations for this adaptation out of the 3, and it became the biggest disappointment of the season.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
It's not necessarily bad, but man, it's so bland and uninteresting without direction and poorly paced that I have to force myself to watch every episode. I rarely feel that I'm grinding when I watch anime, but that's how Noblesse made me feel. If I didn't have to make this class, to be honest, I would have dropped it. I didn't like how they basically forced you to watch the previous OVA. I'm not mad that they skipped the beginning, but they could have tried at least to make the adaptation in a way that could have let you understand the show even without it, and let the OVA be a bonus for whoever wants to get to know more. But no, they literally force you to watch it to understand what is happening. I imagine it's a good watch for the hardcore fans of the webtoon that want to see their favorite series animated, but someone who has never read Noblesse has no reason to watch this show in a season where Jujutsu Kaisen exists. Look, I hate the word overhype. I think that it's a dumb word that is used only by people on the internet that want to justify their egos. But I do admit that the webtoon readers and the hardcore fans of this series did raise some pretty high expectations that put the bar very high in the eyes of many non-readers. Myself, who only read the God of Highschool 7 or 8 years ago, remember being bombarded with all these promises that these adaptations are going to change everything, that they are the best webtoons out there. And after a year in which I dabbled a lot in the manhwa and webtoon scene, let me tell you something, they are far from the best webtoons have to offer. They may be 3 of the most popular ones, but they are not the best. This is why I think that a big reason why these adaptations were so disappointing are the people themselves. The fans that were so excited at the thought that their favorite webtoon is getting an anime adaptation that they set the bar a little bit too high for themselves and for the others. And look, I repeat, because I know I come off as someone that hates this series, but trust me, I'm not. But I try to look as objectively as possible. Tower of God is one of my favorite webtoons ever, but that does not mean that I won't take a step back and be real about it, or the other series. They are not as good as people made them out to be. You can agree or disagree. I would like to hear your opinion down below in the comments. And if you're there, you could also click the subscribe button. I'm just saying. It would help me greatly and I would appreciate it a lot. Another reason why adapting a webtoon into an anime is not quite that smooth of a process is the way the story is structured. You see, manhwa in general does tell a larger overarching story that is structured in bigger chunks throughout the series. A story arc in a webtoon, as such, is usually the length of 3 or 4 story arcs in a normal manga. The first season of TOG had around 70 chapters if I remember it correctly, God of Highschool had over 100, and Noblesse around 200. there is a shitload of chapters to be adapted into a 13-episode series. When you look at the typical manga adaptation, the anime adapts around 30 to 40 chapters in a season, and the word construction in manhwa is usually a bit more complex than in manga. And I don't mean to say that it's better, it's just more convoluted and requires to convey much more direct pieces of information to the viewers. This is why there is a lot more exposition dump in these early story arcs of a manhwa. Structure-wise, they feel a lot more like older shonens such as Naruto, Bleach and One Piece than modern seasonal anime, which is to be expected when taking in consideration the fact that all of them came out when these shows were still airing and were at the peak of their popularity. I know that they are made in Korea, but that does not mean that they couldn't take inspiration from them. The last reason may also be the most controversial one. Before I start, I just want to make it clear that these are all my own speculations based on my previous experiences with this industry and as a viewer that saw this happen to a lot of series that I enjoyed. And that is, they never gave a fuck. Look, it's not a question if these series were adapted into anime with the intent to serve as promotional material for the webtoons, cause they 100% were. The question is this the only reason as to why they were adapted? Yes, I see a hand there, comment section?
Oh, Sensei, that's dumb. Why would they make a mediocre adaptation to promote the webtoon? That makes no sense.
Does it? Now, they really didn't need to stress too much about the adaptations. Good enough is more than sufficient. They do not need to put out a masterpiece to get people interested in the source material. And I think it's even better when the adaptation is made to be worse, because now everybody keeps saying that the webtoon did it better and you'll be more inclined to go and check it out for yourself. It's not uncommon in the anime industry that studios do mediocre adaptations just to stir up some interest in the manga or light novel. You see this shit all the time. This is why you don't see many anime sequels unless the series is really successful. A big portion of them were never made to be successful, but to promote the original material. And I think they accomplished their job. The only thing is that if this truly is the case, it's highly unlikely that we will get a second season for any of these very soon. I may be wrong here, and if I am prepared to take the L and to say that I was wrong. So yeah, these are my opinions. What do you think? Did you enjoy the adaptations? Do you agree with me? Let me know down below in the comment section. If you'd like, you could also subscribe to the channel for more anime-related content. After all, the whole purpose of this class is to promote my channel and get subscribers, so I can validate myself on the internet. Yeah, I know, it's sad. Thank you for watching and see you next time.